Roses to speak. Because we're chickens. Good afternoon. We are so privileged today to have the opportunity to share a little of what our wonderful big brother means to us. Paul Leonard Simmerer, our brother, was born just 19 months after our firstborn, strong-willed brother Carlton. For the next 6 years, the boys would be overtaken by a new squirming girl every couple of years, until the fourth and final girl came along and the 2-year rhythm was interrupted. That was me, and from what I have been told, I have my dear brother Paul to thank for my very life. You see, during Paul's young life, he faced a serious medical challenge. I believe that helped to prepare him a bit for his later adult life and the many medical struggles and obstacles he would face. A school physical at age 8 revealed a problem which turned out to be a heart defect since birth and necessitated heart surgery. I'm told the hospital stay kept my parents apart for a time. Our mom, the RN, likely spent days in the hospital with Paul. As we know, absence makes the heart grow fonder. My parents' hearts must have grown quite fond when things got back to normal after Paul's surgery, because about 9 months later and 3 years after my older sister Grace was born, I arrived. Thank you, Paul. Carl and Paul were quite different. Our dear late brother Carl was more outgoing and skilled with his hands, at least in different ways. Paul was quieter, the thinker, and book smart, as they say. Although after his surgery, he wasn't allowed to participate in competitive sports, which may have contributed to his studious nature. By 7th grade, he was bored or unchallenged, and he moved up to 8th grade. So, as I write, I do think of Paul critiquing this reflection. Can you relate? But seriously, I am sure he is encouraging and rooting for me, in between his constructive criticism. When I was young and Paul was still at home during college, I remember seeing him in the smallest of the 4 bedrooms, studying at a desk at a window facing Main Street, yes, in the little hamlet of Bowmansville, New York, smoking a pipe.
With a full beard.
Yeah, because it was the 70s, yeah, late 60s. It was probably around this time that Paul took an interest in my writing and encouraged me to do more poetry writing. Then he had me try opinion writing. He took me to a couple of movies and told me to write a review of them afterward. I didn't mind. I was truly grateful for the encouragement, affirmation of my potential, and the attention. Not to mention that getting to movies was pretty rare for us kids. So at 10 years old, this was very special. Grace's grade school memory is a little different. It was summertime, and a man came to repair our phone line. Paul piped up and proclaimed to the man, "Doesn't my sister have nice legs?" Grace was very embarrassed, and she ran out of the room horrified. Contrary to that incident, Paul was always kind to us girls. For example, the boys didn't mind when we joined their friends. In fact, Ruth remembers the brothers would shovel the snow from the ice-covered backyard by the creek. It would overflow and then freeze, and let the girls join them and their friends skating, sometimes a half-mile up the frozen creek. Ironically, this is a fond memory for Ruth, even though one time playing Crack the Whip, she ended up in 2 feet of icy water. Because of our birth order, growing up, we recall the boys naturally hanging out together, separately from the girls. So our memories kind of reflect that. But Ruth and Grace do remember sneaking down the stairs, creaky half-floor landing and all, to the convenient mini balusters, which were perfect for looking through unnoticed while sitting on the stairs to spy on Carl or Paul when they were alone in the living room with their girlfriends. Other fun observing girlfriends and our brothers, including during our annual family vacation at Long Beach, Ontario, Canada. One girl liked Paul, Kendra, I guess we said, but my father thought she was too pushy. We remember cast parties at the house after the St. Mary's High School plays in which Paul and Carl were involved, and sometimes they had parties in the attic too. Paul acted in the plays and Carl would do the technical work and the lighting. We believe Paul was vice president of his class at St. Mary's too. Grace and I were the beneficiaries of Paul's sense of adventure when we were still in our grade school years. The three of us piled into his chocolate brown Volkswagen Beetle and headed to Massachusetts to visit our second cousins, the McDavid family. It was a fun trip, in spite of me having to basically sit on the old car's hot motor. We were surprised he would take us, and it was great to see our cousins. Ruth recalls when he lived at home while attending Canisius College, Aunt May, an older neighbor and friend who helped us out during the week when Mom was at work, would say, "I gotta get ready for the bishop. He's coming home. I gotta get lunch ready for the bishop." Paul would stop home for lunch between classes. Not certain where that nickname came from, but it may have had something to do with the unspoken elevated status he held in the house at that time. We all looked up to Paul for being the college student and pursuing his career. We admired his drive to achieve his goals in life, and we were so proud of where his career took him, or rather, the heights of which he took his career. Paul set a terrific example for leadership, being kind, compassionate, and a good listener. Even with all of his intelligence, he would listen, but never judged or made you feel like you were less than he was. When we would call him once in a while, he was always ready to talk, whether advice was needed or if we just called for a chat. And he was good about calling us too, I have to say. He also set an example as a father. Even with the distance between us and Paul, we could tell he made sure he paid attention to all of his daughters, went to school functions, and just was a really good dad and grandfather. Paul also took the time to be with his parents in their older years, hosting them at their Minnetonka home or including them on their lake vacations. And our parents truly loved their time together too. We all missed him in the early, busy years when he was raising his family after he moved out of state. So when he and Sandy and Emily began making a tradition of coming home for New Year's, we loved it. Those years brought us back together a bit and helped us reconnect. The big New Year's Eve party was always a great time. Dancing in the basement or upstairs or both.
Emily, you remember those?
But being together again with our out-of-town brother and his family meant the most. With Ruth having the most room in the party house, they stayed in her home, and that afforded Ruth's family a little bonus bonding time. So Grace and I were so grateful in the last couple of years when we had the chance to spend some extended time with Paul and Sandy. For me and Bob, it was several days in Cape Cod, and for Grace, it was a visit at their newish home here and seeing all the family. No one is perfect, and older brothers are no different. Paul did have his controlling side. When doing things, you had to do it his way. You couldn't tell him how to do it. At her house, he would say, "Ruth, don't do this, do this." "Now, Ruth, what are you doing? Put that down."
In the kitchen, of course, and I just walked out.
I know this doesn't sound at all familiar, ladies, if you are involved with any of the Zimmer offspring. But in addition to admiring Paul for utilizing his wisdom for good, and later for successfully exploring his very creative side through the fine arts, all of us sisters also admired him for the strength and perseverance he showed throughout his many illnesses and surgeries over the years. We wish he never had to suffer in so many ways, And we especially wish he had never contracted that ridiculous disease that had the audacity to take him from all of us and all of you much too soon. That said, we are beyond grateful to our God for the time and the years we had with him. We love you and miss you, Paul, and we thank you for all the love and support you gave us. And we love you, and our hearts break for you, Sandy, Jessica, Lauren, Beth, and Emily.
When somebody loves you, it's no good unless he loves you all the way. Happy to be near you when you need someone to cheer you all the way. That's how it's got to feel. Deeper than the deepest is. That's how deep it goes if it's real. When somebody needs you, it's no good unless he needs you.